Right now, a press briefing is scheduled to begin at any moment, one that was added to the schedule late in the day. Boy, are they going to be hammered with some interesting questions today. Lindell TV Kara Castronova is in the briefing room, and we'll pitch over to that as soon as it begins. But just a note here, if you're watching DC Dispatch on any other streaming service or on X, you can continue to watch the full show. But LindellTV.com will have the press briefing live as soon as it begins. Now, welcome to Christy Lee's DC Dispatch. In the meantime, Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, is on his way to the White House for a meeting with President Trump this evening. Here's what Trump had to say about Bibi's visit. Watch.
What's your message going to be to Netanyahu tomorrow?
But we're working on a lot of things with Israel, and one of the things is probably a permanent deal with Iran. In other words, they have to give up all of the things that you know so well. The attack turned out, according to every single atomic energy commission, that was a complete and total obliteration. And we had the pilots, as you know, at the White House on Friday. They were incredible. And they confirmed that. They know better than anybody, by the way, but they confirmed that every bomb hit its mark perfectly. And they would have to start all over again at a different location. This one was, the word I used was the correct word, obliteration.
What will your message be on Gaza to Netanyahu?
I think we're close to a deal on Gaza. We could have it this week.
Well, again, Bibi is going to be meeting with President Trump this evening. I'm sure he's on his way as we speak. You know, this is interesting timing, as an Epstein bomb was dropped that's got everyone talking. Allison Steinberg's going to be joining me in a moment to discuss the Epstein file flop. But first, tragedy in Texas, just to about the west of where I live here in Central Texas. I was getting alerts as I was spending time in Ohio with family. Just devastating news. NBC News reporting catastrophic floods have claimed at least 82 lives. Other reports have said expected more than 100, including 28 children, with 10 girls still missing from Camp Mystic. Rescue teams are working around the clock along the Guadalupe River, but more rain could hamper efforts. Of course, the mainstream media has been trying to blame Trump, even though, of course, they ran cover for the Biden administration when it failed in the face of natural disasters. We'll be getting to how natural this may or may not be in one moment. Daily Mail reports victims, though, they're furious at officials for trying to blame the National Weather Service over delayed warnings. And meteorologists back that up. They tell Wired the National Weather Service nailed the flood risk forecast, issuing timely warnings despite staff cuts. But the storm's freak severity, it caught everyone off guard. The White House released this following statement. The White House Faith Office asks you to join us in prayer for the precious lives lost in the Texas floods. Amidst this tragedy, our nation must come together to pray for the victims, their families, the first responders conducting rescue missions to find those still missing. May God wrap his loving arms around all those in Texas. And then Psalm 34:18 added there at the end, the Lord is near to the brokenhearted and saves the crushed in spirit. Meanwhile, the party of violence is literally celebrating death. A Houston pediatrician, you know, the doctors that care for children, Dr. Christina Probst, she was fired from Bluefish Pediatrics after a vile Facebook post mocking Texas flood victims, saying MAGA voters got what they voted for, as dozens have died, including children. This post sparked outrage, and the Texas Medical Board is now investigating, according to Todd Starnes. Lindell TV's Allison Steinberg is joining me now to discuss who might really be to blame for the death and destruction. She's live in DC. Allison, boy, it sure was not a boring weekend with the news cycle, right?
It's just absolutely devastating what's happening over in Texas, and my heart goes out to every family impacted by this disaster. It's so sad. But I think what's even more sad is why these devastations are happening so regularly in our country now. Of course, the left will blame it all on climate change. But I think there may be another issue at hand that we need to shift our focus onto, and that is the weather modification and geoengineering that we know is happening in America. In fact, RFK Jr. used to be quite vocal about this topic. Unfortunately, he sort of laid low on it ever since assuming office. But I think it's an issue we need to look back towards to see why this continues to happen and what the reason for these floods actually are. Now, I don't know, this could just be all speculation or some crazy conspiracy theorist on the internet talking about this, but I found this post fascinating and I think it's worth digging into. There was a Twitter post that said that the Texas cloud seeding CEO was funded ultimately by Peter Thiel, connected to Palantir. There is a gentleman by the name of Augustus Dorico. He's a 25-year-old tech bro, and he founded this weather modification startup called Rainmaker. Now, according to publicly available info, this gentleman, Augustus Dorico, his company was reportedly cloud seeding over parts of Texas just 2 days before the massive flood. So I find this very interesting. You also have to, follow the money in all of these circumstances. Apparently, his company, Rainmaker, received $100,000 plus through Peter Thiel's fellowship. So there's definitely some interesting connections here. Like I said, Chrissy, I haven't had an opportunity to thoroughly deep dive and investigate into this, but we're starting to see some information come to the surface. And, I've talked to Dane Wigington, who I know you're having on your program, I believe, tomorrow, who is an expert in this field, and he's been sounding the alarm on this for decades. This is a real issue. It is often swept under the rug or, written off as some crazy conspiracy theory, but it's not. This is the truth. This is actually happening. There's a famous report from ABC from not too long ago where they brag about this. They say proudly that they are implementing this. So it's a real thing, and it needs to be investigated and looked further into. And thankfully, I believe Marjorie Taylor Greene is now working to do that. She says she's introducing legislation that will hopefully investigate this and put an end to the geoengineering weather modification issue that we continue to see time and time again. It'll be similar to Florida's Senate Bill 56. As we know, Florida just made it a law to outlaw geoengineering. So I think it's critical that we, follow in Florida's footsteps and make this the same on a national level. It's absolutely critical so we can easily prevent issues like what we're seeing happen now in Texas.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope we get some answers because this certainly seems not natural what happened, although it has happened in the past. It doesn't seem to this degree, just flooding that no one could anticipate, rainfall that no one could anticipate. And it does seem a little bit too coincidental that there was this weather manipulation going on. And interesting, isn't it, Allison, that weather manipulation, chemtrails, geoengineering, all that was considered conspiracy theories, but now we have actual companies, we have actual legislation against it. So I guess the conspiracy theorists get the last laugh. And on that note, I'm hoping that the conspiracy theorists get the last laugh. And when it comes to Epstein, certainly all signs pointing to a cover-up, huge bomb being dropped by Axios. So I guess we need to proceed with caution, considering the source of the news, basically saying that, nothing to see here. But this has got a lot of people talking, a lot of people disappointed. They certainly don't want more of the same with the Trump administration. This was one of his campaign promises. He said repeatedly that we would get to the bottom of the Epstein client list, that there would be arrests, lots of promises made when it came to Epstein. So feeling quite sour if there's any truth to this Axios report that basically, again, nothing to see here. What have you uncovered?
Well, yeah, I think you're spot on, Chrissy, and it is absolutely incredibly disappointing if this is the truth. Of course, consider the source, Axios. But, they are the first to come forward and state this, and judging by, Pam Bondi's repeated appearances on Fox News with very little action in return, I wouldn't be surprised if this were indeed the truth. I mean, the Axios article says that the DOJ and the FBI have concluded that they have no evidence and that convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein did not keep a client list. There's no list to be found. It's just done. It's over. Case closed. That's it. I mean, this is obviously not it, because why would, Bondi have previously said that the FBI had tens of thousands of files on the desk that she was looking through? And then this is the outcome. In fact, I think I have a clip of that little throwback. Let's take a listen to what she had said previously, along with Kash Patel on this one.
Again, logical play out. If there was a video of some guy or gal committing felonies on an island and I'm in charge, don't you think you'd see it?
Tens of thousands of videos of Epstein with children or child porn. And there are hundreds of victims. And no one victim will ever get released. It's just the volume, and that's what they're going through right now. The FBI is diligently going.
Pam Bondi, she had said truckloads. She had said the files are on my desk. She did that little press circus with all the big names in I guess you could say alt-right media, parading around with smiles on their faces about sex trafficking, which was always a lot of it weird. And so it's none of this makes sense. And people are demanding answers, as they should. Again, I said Axios, consider the source, but certainly there's enough noise being made that we should have heard something from Attorney General Pam Bondi, Deputy FBI Director Dan Bongino, or FBI Director Kash Patel by now. I mean, speak up, say something.
I mean, you would absolutely think, and just to, put this into perspective and, make it a little bit more personal, our very own Emerald Robinson, I think, was asking questions, the same kinds of questions that you and I are discussing right now, Christy, the things that are on all of our minds, because yes, we were promised answers and we're still demanding them, because Emerald asked these questions publicly on X. She got blocked by Dan Bongino himself. So I think that's very telling. I think that's very interesting. If this is the most transparent administration in history, which Caroline Leavitt regularly brags about, and yes, to her credit and to her point, they are very transparent in many regards, but this is an issue that I don't think they are being very transparent about. If there's nothing to hide here, if this is the truth, if this is the actual situation, then why not, open up the records for all to see, and then we can make our own judgment call on that. Why is it so deeply concealed, and why are we being forbid from receiving that information? I think we should all be able to access it. I think we should all be able to see it. And I think the fact that they're withholding it is indeed very telling.
I think Bongino himself had said, "Oh, just wait another 2 weeks. Wait till we tell you what we've uncovered." Well, that's come and gone, and it's extremely disappointing, because I used to listen to Dan Bongino's podcast daily. Like, I rarely missed an episode, and this is a different man. I don't recognize this man, and I've seen him blocking anyone that asks questions, and it's just so disheartening and disappointing, because if you are so threatened by questions, if you are so threatened by criticisms, then, maybe you don't have the temperament to be the FBI Assistant Deputy Director. And that's coming from somebody that was extremely excited to see him take that position. And so perhaps I'll be blocked next. Because, I was really excited when I saw that he followed my X account. Maybe he won't anymore. But that is not the temperament of leadership that we would want and deserve to expect. Somebody that is threatened and upset and angry over questions. But because we are searching for answers, there's all kinds of theories going around. Of course, the leftists are saying, "Oh, Trump is on the list, that's why it's being covered up." But I just find that hard to believe, because any fuel to the fire storm that they've had against Trump, they would have released by now. I'm sure most people with any sense of logic could agree on that statement. So there is this other theory. There is a lot of evidence that Epstein, was an intelligence asset, that he was possibly even Mossad. There's testimony that he was worked with or for Mossad. And so when you're searching for answers, I did a post that basically said, that's the only Occam's razor type thing that seems to make sense, is if there's some kind of agreement that they need to keep this hidden, the truth hidden, because it's just too too big when it comes to these nations. Interesting timing with Bibi's visit right now. So that's going to be controversial to say, though, for some. But it needs to be said because there's people that are talking about it. And so we're here to talk about what other people are talking about. So there is, like I said, some evidence in that regard, right?
Yeah, I mean, I believe actually Ghislaine Maxwell's dad, Robert Maxwell, was rumored to have Israeli ties. I know there were Israeli intelligence officials at his funeral. So is that a coincidence? I don't know. There are a lot of ties that do lead back to Israeli intelligence and Mossad even. We heard from, there was the testimony that you mentioned that highlights this. In fact, if we have that clip, let's take a listen to that and then we can go from there.
Maintained that it was your employer, Robert Maxwell, owner of the Daily Mirror. You say that he was an Israeli agent, and as was his daughter.
He was not my employer. I would like to correct that.
Okay.
We worked together with him.
And you say that his daughter Ghislaine also, though, worked for Israel, and it was Robert Maxwell who introduced Jeffrey Epstein to Ghislaine Maxwell way before the 1990s, as mainstream media is reporting.
Correct.
I suppose what the most alarming allegations that you've been making are that the entire Epstein operation was a honey trap operation to entrap politicians, policymakers, celebrities, people in the media eye, basically to become Israel's assets.
Correct. That it became basically an intelligence operation to entrap different politicians.
So there you have it. Some testimony there giving some credence to this theory that he was an intelligence asset. And there is more of that, where that comes from, even his relationship with the FBI and the CIA. There's documentation that he was a source. But as far as Piambandi and Bongino goes, there does seem to be some allegiance, quite a bit of allegiance to Israel there.
Yeah, well, I think that you have to, look at the bigger picture and understand that pretty much all governments are compromised. So this is one side of the story. And, these honeypot operations are very common within all aspects of governments, really. I mean, Mossad, MI6, even our own government, right? So I think we have to understand that pretty much just this boils down to the fact that this is government cover-up, it's government corruption. I think our own government is actually primarily at fault for the time being, since they refuse to disclose the reality of the situation and move forward with exposing the documents. So I think our own government is equally complicit in this at this point in time, which is pretty sad. But, I read a really interesting article from the Gateway pundit. Joe Hoff said, he pointed to the fact that in 2022, they asked a New York court to release the client list, and they said they couldn't because allegedly it contained a name that was concealed in the list. But now they're saying there's just no list entirely. So nothing's really adding up here. There's a lot of confusion and things that are not really very clear. And I think the American people would like some answers, and I think we deserve that, especially because, as you mentioned, Christy, that was a promise that was made to us on the campaign trail. This is a massive bomb that they've dropped on us, and I think we deserve some answers here.
Absolutely. And, there has been a lot of folks asking, well, if there's no client list, why is Ghislaine Maxwell in prison? They trafficked them too. I guess the counter argument to that I've heard is that, the sex trafficking was to himself and to Ghislaine, and supposedly there's no proof or evidence of anyone else, but we know that's not true because of the whole Prince Edward mess. And then let's not forget Virginia Giuffre conveniently dying by suicide just before all this went down. So everything smells rotten. We deserve answers. We pray that God will shine a light on this. And if these folks, Cash and Dan and Pam, are being threatened in any way or blackmailed in any way, we pray that someone has the courage to speak up. Very disappointing because I think a lot of us had a lot more faith in them. Either way, they need to speak up. They need to say something. But Allison, we are, I believe, still waiting for the press briefing to begin. It looks like, yes, we are still waiting. I got to check in real time. This is live. So when that, just again, another note, when that press briefing begins, we will pitch over to that live here on LindellTV.com. But if you are watching on any other streaming, we'll keep going and continue on with DC Dispatch wherever you're watching, particularly on X right now. Allison, what else? Do you have anything you want to tease ahead to? Anything else you're digging into?
We will be covering all updates live from the White House. Our own Kara Castronova is in the press briefing today, so hopefully she gets a question in there. The president is set to sign executive orders later today at 4 o'clock. I haven't caught wind of what those are exactly at this point in time. And then, of course, the president is meeting with the Prime Minister of Israel, Netanyahu, later today at 6:30 p.m. That one is closed to the press, so that's a private meeting. I'm sure we'll see what happens in there, but we will stay tuned to see what comes of this all and keep you apprised to any updates. So stay tuned for that live on Lindell TV.
Yes. Thank you so much, Allison. Always a pleasure getting your thoughts. We usually share the same thoughts, but it's good to bounce those off of each other. So thank you so much. And yes, as she said, keep it locked in here to Lindell TV White House coverage. We are going to move on and actually take a quick break to hear from those that make this show possible. Coming up on the other side, we will have some economic news and more. So keep it locked in here, and I'll see you in just a moment.
The last time President Trump was in office, gold soared 50% and silver went up a huge 53%. Americans who invested in silver and gold during Donald Trump's first presidency are very happy that they did it. And right now, gold continues to soar to the highest numbers in history. These gains are just an appetizer for what's to come. Some market analysts are saying that gold is predicted to rise another 30% in the next year alone. So now's the time to invest in gold and silver, and that's why I partnered with Fisher Liberty Gold. Fisher Liberty Gold is a conservative-owned and operated precious metals investment company. They even helped my good friend President Trump get elected through their contributions to Turning Point USA and other conservative groups. I have dedicated my life to ensuring that people get the best sleep ever. And in addition to owning a MyPillow, I can now sleep well at night knowing that you can all protect your savings with precious metals with Fisher Liberty Gold. With Fisher Liberty Gold, you can sleep well knowing that your retirement is secure. And if you call now, you're going to receive your very own presidential gold guide and qualify for up to $20,000 in free silver. But wait, there's more. Call now or text metals to 26786 to receive your presidential gold guide from Fisher Liberty. And for a limited time, I will send you a free MyPillow for qualified accounts. This presidential gold guide from Fisher Liberty will tell you exactly why you need to own gold even while Donald Trump is president. And just by calling in, you get a free MyPillow for a limited time for qualified accounts, and up to $20,000 in free silver. So don't wait. Call 1-888-4GOLD-19 or text metals to 26786 today. That's 1-888-4GOLD-19 or text metals to 26786 today to receive your free MyPillow and up to $20,000 in free silver.
To Christy Lee's DC Dispatch. It is good to be back, getting back into a routine. I want to take this moment to thank John Bown, an InfoWars reporter, for covering for me on a Monday of this past week, as well as Scott Armstrong of Rebunt News for holding down the other few days. I really hope you enjoyed your holiday. I hope July 4th felt even more patriotic this year. I got to say, I am glad to be back. Traveling with a 20-month-old and a 6-month-old was every bit of chaotic as I expected to be, and more. So I think we're all happy to be getting back into routine. And I just love doing this. I love covering the news and connecting with you. So make sure you are connecting with me. You can follow me on X at Christy Lee TV and continue to support LindellTV.com here on Real Lindell TV. So speaking of that, as far as that LindellTV.com goes, I am getting word that the press briefing is finally beginning. I'm sure they started late because they're going to be hammered with some questions. We are going to be airing that live on LindellTV.com. So we're going to pitch over to that right now. If you're watching on other streaming services such as X or Rumble and such, I have this on my X account. You can continue to watch the remainder of this show right here on the other streaming services. But if you're wanting to watch that live, make sure you're over on LindellTV.com right now. All right, so moving on to finish out Christy Lee's DC Dispatch, I said I wanted to cover some economic news. We're going to cover that Wall Street is on edge as stocks have slid with a new tariff deadline looming. The Dow's down over 300 points, S&P 500 and NASDAQ each dropping about 0.7% as Trump's August 1st tariff plan stirs trade fears per Market Watch. Now, that was the headline from this morning. Let's take a live look and see if that remains the case. Yes, we are still in the red on many of those fronts. 468 points down on the Dow, 52 points down, S&P 500, NASDAQ, about 187 points down. Red. We don't like to see it when we're investors, right? But this is what you sign up for when you play the market. If you want to feel a little bit better about those moves and being that they go up and down, you really should have a hedge against market action. Consider going to MikeLindellGold.com. You just watched a little advert there for it, and just want to remind you, do it now. Go there to MikeLindellGold.com. There are free gifts for you if you qualify, and this is a good move for supporting the work Mike Lindell is trying to do with this network and everything else. He's been so courageous. You can support him, but you're also supporting your own finances, your own portfolio, because you're getting a hedge against what's happening in the market by having a precious metals play. You can also invest in energy, and there's never been a better time because we know that Trump has wanted to drill, baby, drill, right? So you can do that at ChristyOilBoom.com. That's ChristyOilBoom.com. Our partners over at Oxford Club have the ultimate passive income play with the #1 oil and gas royalty. Really worth heading over to ChristyOilBoom.com and at least watching that little video you see playing there so you can get a feel for how that works. All right. So here is President Trump. He had an update on tariffs, I believe, yesterday. He was speaking outside of Air Force One. And here's what he had to say then. Watch this.
Sending letters out on Monday having to do with the trade deals. It could be 12, maybe 15. You know, Secretary of Commerce right here. And I guess, Howard, I would say it could be maybe as many as 15 or so. And they'll be going out on Monday, and some will go out on Tuesday and Wednesday, and and we've made deals also. So we're going to have a combination of letters, and some deals have been made.
Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says tariffs from April will hit on August 1st for countries without trade deals, with letters going out to a dozen trading partners today, per CNBC. So echoing Trump's statements right there. Meanwhile, Argentina sitting pretty. Their economy grew 7.6% year on year. Econometrica, that's a tough one to say, is reporting. Here's a look at the chart. Wow, if we can pull that chart up next to see just how much growth that we have seen under Milei. Bloomberg says the growth is thanks to President Javier Milei easing currency controls under a $20 billion IMF deal, retail, manufacturing, and finance leading the charge. But note the headline on this next article from The Guardian. It says the growth is more than expected. Because the experts got it wrong again. So here is the article. It says, back in 2023, over 100 top economists, including Thomas Piketty, warned that electing Javier Milei as Argentina's president could spell economic devastation and social chaos. They feared his radical plans like slashing spending and dollarizing the economy would deepen poverty and inflation already at 140%. So given that perspective, this is what MSM does when it comes to Trump's economy, fear-mongering all the way. So take it with a grain of salt. More on that tomorrow because I am out of time for Christy Lee's DC Dispatch. But want to remind you, make sure that you tune in to Get Free with Christy Lee Tuesday evening, tomorrow evening, because I do plan to have Dane Wigington on to discuss weather manipulation and how it could have played a role in that Texas flooding. But that's it for me. Keep it locked in here to Lindell TV White House coverage live.